Hey everyone, welcome back to another Emerging Artist Talk. My name is Beau Frank, and this is a little compilation of an Instagram live video that I did a couple months ago. I saved it and someone asked me, hey Beau, could you upload this somewhere? And I was like, yes, and then I just never did. But I wasn't lying because I'm doing it now. So what I love so much about these Instagram live videos is that people ask me questions and I get to answer them right away. There's no typing, there's no thinking about it, there's no pauses, it's just go, 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 go. And so I talk about all the subjects that revolve around what it's like to be an emerging artist, what it's like to be a creative, what it's like to be an entrepreneur, what it's like to be someone who's trying to figure it out. So in this Instagram live, Kelogsloops actually drops in and says hello and asks me a pretty thoughtful question, and I get all choked up and awkward about it, but I pull through. Wasn't expecting him to say hello. But yeah, this is a really great one. I think it's really important. I love this long form because it feels like a podcast. It feels like a long form conversation. I read the question out loud and then I respond, and people just keep vibing off and off and off. And so it's just a nice, easy flow. Each time it's a transition. Sometimes we switch subjects a little bit, but overall it's all about what it's like to be an artist. So what I suggest with these videos is that people can paint and listen. What that means is that you don't have to particularly look at the camera while you're listening to this podcast or this little Instagram live. You can work on your personal projects, you can work on your other things, but having this in the background is kind of nice. It helps to distract you from the tough labor, the work, the things that sometimes feels a little bit boring. I typically listen to a lot of podcasts while I'm working, and so that way it distracts me and transports me into the conversation where I feel like I'm sitting in the room and I'm getting to absorb all this knowledge and all this information. But while I'm absorbing all this stuff, I'm actually producing at the same time. It's just to give you a little heads up also, because it is an Instagram video recording, the camera lens is gonna be like this with the black on both sides. It's the only way that I could upload it so that it didn't look very awkward. Cropping it in would have been way too close and you'd just be looking at my face. So I think this way it's much more aesthetic. So anyways, let's get to it. Hi guys, welcome back to another live video. My name is Beau Frank and I'm a surrealist painter based out of Pacific Grove here on the California coast. Haven't done a live video in about a week. I've been out of town, I've been traveling. So I spent the last few days over in Orange County in Southern California. So I spent some time in LA, went to Santa Monica, went to Venice Beach, checked out Laguna Beach where I was born and raised for the first 5 years of my life. Also went to Tustin, Santa Ana area. Got to see my cousins, got to see my grandparents. It was great, really just getting to catch up, spend time with them, hear what's the latest, and just go visit the places that I used to hang out in when I was younger. So going to Balboa Island, walking around, checking out the beaches. Luckily we got really nice weather, so it kind of had the summertime vibe to it. I was a bit of a tourist and went to Hollywood Studios. I'd never been before, so it was kind of cool going for the first time. I don't know if I'd want to go back, but I'm glad I went in the first place. All right, so reason I do these Instagram live videos, it's to connect with you. It's to answer questions that you have about my process, my lifestyle, the tools that I use, any questions or recommendations you like, feel free to ask. This is the time to do it. These live videos typically go from, I don't know, 20 minutes to an hour, depends on how I feel, depends on how the conversation's going. But I just really like being able to talk about art, being able to help people that are kind of like me, that are also trying to figure out their creative pursuits, trying to figure out their creative path, trying to create a lifestyle around the things that they care about. And yeah, it's been wild. I've only been taking it seriously probably the last 3 years or so. Art used to be this side hobby that I do just kind of on this, kind of in between classes when I was in school or in weekends if I felt like drawing. I bring my little sketchbooks and just do these little doodles as I go on my trips. But I didn't think that it was gonna convert into a potential career path and develop into a source of income, into a source of daily inspiration and passion, something that I just enjoy doing on a regular basis. And yeah, being able to transition from playing around in the studio to being able to take it a little bit more seriously, take it up a next step, and actually put it into gallery spaces, onto white walls, being able to sell work. That's been a huge transition and something that I never thought was possible until it was happening in real time. Landing commissions, selling out a full collection, doing these little auctions for Seascapes Online. These are all little side ideas that once upon a time were just these little notes in my notebooks or something. And then the more that I thought about it, the more that I looked into it, the more I realized that I could make this real. And so right now I'm still working in the restaurant. I just had 2 weeks off, which has been amazing. I didn't realize how much I needed to be away from the hospitality industry. It can be very draining at times. But being able to just do other things, spend time with family and not feel guilty about it, being able to spend time in the studio and just be completely immersed in the work, these are things that I didn't realize I missed so much. So it feels good to do that. I'm currently in the studio. I have a couple of pieces here that are works in progresses. Hi, Green Drinks. Haven't seen you in a while. And let's see if there's any questions. Who's your favorite artist on YouTube? I don't really know. I've been pretty bad with YouTube. That's something that I feel like I need to look into, especially if I want to grow my platform, put out content that is actionable and helpful when it comes to the actual work of painting. I've been good about talking about the process of being an emerging artist, but I haven't been really good at showing it. I feel like I can only do so much with words. It's a lot of techniques and things like that, but I feel like there's just so many other artists that are doing it, but I guess those artists aren't me, so I guess I need to step up and start doing more tutorial-based work, start doing more hands-on videos. I just know that I'm so lazy when it comes to editing. That's my weakness. It sucks to sit in front of a computer and just edit for hours, but it's a part of the game, it's a part of the process. So I think I just need to start getting used to it. I don't really have one on YouTube. There's a bunch of people that I follow, but it's a lot of more personal development, kind of just motivational stuff. I don't know. All right, so let's see. What artist inspired you? It's funny. I used to have a Tumblr. That was my first kind of visual blog inspirational source, before Pinterest or before Instagram. Tumblr was kind of the thing, and so I'd go on Tumblr and just scroll through all these images, and I'd see all this really cool art, and I found this blog called Supersonic, and that had all this really cool surrealistic, kind of psychedelic, tattoo-inspired art, and I'd never seen that before. I'd only seen the classical art and impressionists, and when I went on this blog, it just had all these really cool up-and-coming emerging artists that are still painting even today, and so being able to follow their trajectory and see where they started to where they are now, and just seeing how their styles develop and how they're able to spread their work internationally and have shows around the world. That was really inspirational. I think one of the first artists that I recognized was Charmaine Olivia. She was a really talented artist that was really vibrant and colorful and young. I was whoa, there's artists out there that are young, that are doing well. Maybe I can be like that. And so that was kind of one of the inspirations in the beginning. But there's just so many artists that I love and look up to. So if you go on honest.work, it's this Instagram profile that I started that shares a lot of the artists that I look at on a daily basis almost. I'll scroll through their work. I follow them on Instagram. I check out their websites on a regular basis. I see how their shows are doing and what galleries they're in. And they're kind of these people that I look up to and want to be like. And so I feel the more closely I pay attention, maybe I can see trends and see what they're doing and see if I can apply that to my lifestyle. So follow honest.work. So this is probably the most asked question that I get. What paints do I use? I use Beau paints, which is an oil paint, and it's really cheap, and I'd highly recommend it, especially if you're starting out. The other brand that I work with is called Langridge, and this one is much more expensive, but it does deliver in terms of quality and color and pigmentation. So I use both of them. I use this really cheap brand that is super cheap, and I use this other one that's really expensive. Let's see. Have you ever thought of using makeup or body art instead of paints? I have a lot of people tell me that they feel like I'd be really good at makeup. It's all about blending and contouring and detail work, so I feel like I'd be pretty good at face painting or body paint, but I haven't really experimented with that. I've only face painted myself once or twice, I think, for like Halloween or something. Maybe one day, who knows? I did my first painting with an instructor recently and I loved it. Any advice? Keep going. If you're enjoying it, then maybe there's something there. Maybe if you keep working at it and developing your skills, then you'll, this thing that you're just kind of curious about becomes this part of your life that you just can't let go. That's kind of how art was for me. I fell in love with the craft, fell in love with the mediums, fell in love with the results of what you can do with paint. And so I can't believe I waited till I was 20 to pick up paints, but I'm so glad I did. It's never too late and it's never too early. Let's see. Stop being such a love your work, thank you. Do you only use oil paints? Yeah, so there's this thing in where it's like I have so many interests and so many things that I like doing, and so for me it's really hard to choose. I get pulled in all these different directions, and so what I've been doing for the last few years is just narrowing my focus and really directing it towards one singular craft. Like, I have a lot of different things that I want to do on a daily basis, but there's only so much time, and I feel like if I really want to develop myself as an artist, if I really want to create a brand, if I really want to create a career, I have to narrow my attention. And so instead of just doing, watercolors and ink and pencil and sculpture and pottery, like, I just chose oil paints because I feel like it's this thing that it's never ending. There's always going to be more to learn. There's always going to be new techniques, new skills. The limits, there is within the limitation of just using oils, there's tons of possibilities. You can go super smooth and blend everything and soften all your lines. You can add a lot of texture. You can use different types of brush. You can use different types of canvases, different materials to paint on. I used to paint only on wood panels, and recently I transitioned over into linen canvas, and so it's been really fun having those divots. It takes the paints in a different way, and you're able to do different types of techniques with linen canvas rather than a wood panel, which is very soft and smooth. I'm also experimenting with turpentine, which is a odorless paint thinner. It dilutes the paint. It's what you use to clean the brushes. So instead of cleaning my brushes, I put paint in with this turpentine liquid and I mix it in, and it turns it almost into like a watercolor. And so with these liquid paints that are diluted, that are almost transparent, I just kind of pour it over the canvas, and I've been doing a lot of abstract work. I'm using oil paints still, but then the way that I'm using the oil paints is changing. The way that I'm putting it on the canvas is changing as well. I'm getting messy. I'm not focused so much on detail and perfection and structure. It's more just intuition and color and flow and how I'm feeling in the moment. It's feeling a lot more artistic and creative rather than functional or methodical. And so that's been a really cool kind of transition in the last couple of months, maybe weeks actually, I should say. So, even within one medium, there's just so many things that you can do. Hi, Mira. How's it going? I want to get into art school. Do you have any tips on what to put into my portfolio and what not to? I didn't go to art school, so I'm maybe not the best person to ask. I'm sure if you Google it or watch YouTube videos on how to get into certain art schools, they'll give you a better idea. Some want a collection where it's like a series that's expanded on. Some want diversity where you can show that you have different talents in different areas and different mediums. Depends on what school you're focusing on. How do you start any piece? What inspires you? How do you put it together? Everything starts out with an idea. It starts out with this vision that's in your head of what you want to achieve, and then your goal as an artist is to create it in real life and take this conceptual idea and put it out into the physical world. How you go about that, you're going to use different types of tools. You get to decide how to express it, and only you can do that. So you have to do the research, you have to do the practice, you have to sit down and make it come to life. With drawing, with painting, I typically have an idea in my head. I have a reference point next to me. I sketch out the design first. I spray it with a fixative so that my lines don't blur when I add the paint. And then I start building layer after layer after layer, especially if you're trying to create realistic work. It requires a lot of layering. If you're looking for the more figurative, kind of more old school style, up close, the brushes, the colors don't really look like much, but when you stand back, it all comes together. There's that kind of style. There's also the realistic photographic kind of style. There's the loose, abstract kind of style. You get to decide what kind of touch or personal touch you want to add to it, and so you kind of have to experiment and figure out what works for you and what you enjoy doing. Have to figure out some new mediums for a high school scholarship. Any advice? What should I experiment with? All of them. Literally, don't limit yourself to anything, especially in the beginning. You don't really know who you are just yet, so why not try a little bit of everything until you find out which one resonates with you. Why don't you ever paint a full face? So yeah, with the old style, I was doing portraits with landscapes. I love the idea of masks or kind of like these windows into the soul, and having the face be partially covered kind of lets you, fall into the painting or transport you to another world or dimension. That was really fun, but now I'm doing a different style where it's much more on the outside of the body. The face kind of stays intact. Maybe there's a little bit of paint that goes over it, but it's mostly, mostly finished. That's why I'm transitioning. I just feel like it's fun to switch it up. It gets old when it's kind of the same story over and over again. So just doing something new feels good, feels right. Yes, Amira, yes. I miss you. Hi. What has inspired you to paint like you do? Yeah, so the new series is much more abstract based. It's kind of just letting go of a lot of the weights that I was placing on myself, a lot of burdens or feelings of like, I have to execute, I have to make it perfect, I have to have it just be right. Now it's like, screw it, just have fun, don't think about it too much, just do what feels right. And a lot of time it works and sometimes it doesn't, but unless I give up, there's always a chance to resuscitate it, or there's a chance to embellish it, or kind of just find out something new that I didn't know about before. And it all happens in the execution. Thinking about things only takes you so far. It's not until you're there and you're in the arena and you're producing the work or painting or doing these things that feel uncomfortable at first that you start to realize that there are trends, there are patterns. You get certain effects when you do certain things. And so just by doing something new each time, whether it works out well on the painting or not, I'm still learning in that process. And so that's been really fun lately. Any tips for a beginner artist? Draw. I didn't realize how much drawing helped with transitioning into paints. If you can draw and you can hone in your hand-eye coordination and really understand proportions and dimension and color and contrast, especially with human anatomy, you can start to see how to create a painting and how the underlayers that are the foundations underneath help to build up the layers to then have the final product as the final coat. So drawing is my best advice. Draw as much as possible. Do you have days you don't feel like painting at all? And if yes, how do you get motivated? Yeah, so art blocks is one of those things that is just a part of being an artist. You're not always gonna feel inspired. You're not always gonna feel like you're, producing enough or producing well. There's a lot of insecurities, there's a lot of fears, there's a lot of doubts, and for artists that can be paralyzing. And so if you let that part of you take over, then you can miss out on a lot of amazing opportunities to produce work that you enjoy making. And sometimes it's not about being inspired and painting, it's about making the work, and then because you're making the work, you get inspired while producing it. There's a confusion between what starts first, like the chicken or the egg. Sometimes inspiration does lead to further inspiration, but sometimes it's just like by getting into the work and showing up and doing it that you start to get warmed up. And once you're warmed up, then you get into the flow, and then you start, getting ahead, and you start seeing the piece come together, and then you're like, wow, this is kind of cool, this is kind of interesting. And then it all manifests on the canvas. But it doesn't just happen magically. It's not like you get struck by lightning and you're super inspired. It's like a training session. Like, you don't just perform well on the tournament, you perform every day in all your training sessions, and then certain days you perform better, other days you don't perform as well, but each day you're still performing, which means you're still showing up and you're still making the work. So whether you're feeling inspired or not, you still have to paint, or you still have to draw, or do whatever it is that you do. Did you go into college for art? I did not go to college for art. I did not go to college, period. I chose to defer and take a gap year, which has turned into a permanent one. So for me, I feel like learning is a part of my daily routines. It's a part of my lifestyle. I still read on a daily basis. I still write on a daily basis. I still paint almost on a daily basis, or do research online, check out other artists. I'm constantly thinking about how to improve what it is I like, what it is I'm trying to say, how I'm going to say it, how to connect with an audience, how to promote my work, how to get my work in front of people that enjoy it or support it or want to buy it. Just because you're not in school doesn't mean you can't be learning. I think school is a great way to complement your learning abilities, but I feel like it's not the only path. So there are other options out there. Do you sell pictures? Why can I buy one? Sorry for my English, I'm from Germany. Yeah, so if you're interested in prints, you can buy it through my website. It's beaubernier-frank.com. It's in the link under my profile on Instagram, or you can just type it in the search engine. I sell prints for, like, little prints for $25, and I sell larger ones for $60. There's some medium-sized ones, but yeah. Otherwise, for original paintings, I do sell directly to people, especially through email. So if you contact me about a piece that you're interested, I can sell it through email. Otherwise, I feature artwork at a gallery in Australia called 19 Karen Gallery. The other gallery that I share it through is through Post Ranch. So there's 2 galleries that showcase my work. How did you find good techniques? Practice. I wish I could give you a shortcut, but there just isn't. It's just by doing it, producing work that resonates with you, learning from other artists and really seeing how they built the piece and working backwards to then move forward to the last final coat that really brings it all together and makes it, spicy. Kelogsloops, wow, surprised to see you here. I've been following you for a really long time, and I really love your positivity. I love how you're able to connect with an audience that, supports the work that you do, but also encourages them to produce work for themselves. So just want to say thank you. I love your artwork, love your watercolors. What advice would you give to yourself when you're younger and just starting out? So that's essentially why I started this Instagram and why I started talking about my process personally. I felt like there's a lot of things that I just didn't know about when I was just starting out. I'd say the first one was just like giving yourself the chance to even try. A lot of times you limit yourself from doing that first, pencil mark, that first brush stroke, that walking to the art store and buying the products. Like that first step that gets you working in the right direction, that's the scariest. And then the second you do it and you overcome it, you're like, whoa, like that was scary. I felt uncomfortable. I felt the anxiety. I felt the fear, but I still moved through it and I'm okay. So it's like, if you're able to just be okay with being uncomfortable and allowing yourself to explore, to experiment, to practice, to mess up, like that can result in a lot of really cool, interesting breakthroughs. And if you're able to create art that you like, that's the first and foremost, the most important thing. And then if you're able to then connect it to an audience, then that's the next step. And so I feel like allowing yourself to be seen and allowing yourself to produce work that you like and that you enjoy, that eventually helps to connect you with an audience that trusts you, that supports you, that encourages you, and that eventually maybe can help to build the lifestyle that you want for yourself. So it's like, I'd say being okay with being afraid, that's probably the best advice I could be giving myself. Is art your full-time job? It's a, it's a, it's a full-time job for me, but it's one of my full-time jobs. Okay, so I work at a restaurant over in Big Sur, and so working in the hospitality industry has been the source of income that has been able to provide, lodging, phone bills, health insurance, travels, art products, and all these things. And then since I've been taking my art seriously the last 3 years or so, art is gradually becoming more and more a part of my income. Started out 0%, then it's moved up to 5%, then 10%, and now it's 20, 25%. I could technically maybe transition into just being a full-time artist, but I would be just getting by. And so the idea of like going backwards or going into debt or things like that, that's something that I don't feel comfortable with just yet. So I feel like having a source of income that's consistent while I develop my craft, while I practice my art, while I connect with galleries and with clients, that's been the best way to go about it for me personally. So I do work a full-time job as a server in a restaurant, but I also paint every day. I still do research, I still do marketing, I still do videos, I still learn about art. So it's a little bit of both. Are there certain people that have inspired and motivate you with their art and that are not artists? Yes, I love this question. I don't know why we have to limit ourselves to just our interests. There are people doing things that are so different from what you're doing, but because they're doing it so full-heartedly or so passionately or so creatively, they're able to really develop a life for themselves that are authentically amazing and perfect for themselves. It doesn't mean that it has to work for me, but for that person, it works just right. And so if you're able to see other trends in other categories or other areas, you can see that the trajectory, like the path that they took isn't a direct path. It's very left and right. It's up and down. It's failure and success. It's making the right connection. It's the misconnection. It's the learning from those opportunities and those failures. People that are athletes are great people to look up to. People that are, activists are great people to look up to. People that are writers, which is, more, language, art with language, poets, musicians, videographers, like all these people that are so creative that spend their time honing a craft, that spend their time learning about how to get better, how to connect with others, how to share what they do, and then build a house around that. Those people are the people that I look up to. Those are the people that I want to surround myself with. Even if they're not artists, painters per se, the fact that they embody, themselves and they move through life helping others or supporting others or encouraging others or just creating really great content that gets you out of the house and gets you feeling good about yourself or helps to create change. Like those people are the people that I love the most. Kelogsloops, you're the best. When did you start painting and how long have you been painting for? I picked up a paintbrush about 5 years ago and I can't believe I waited so long. But I'm so glad I did. I did draw for most of my life and I was so afraid to pick up paints because I was so used to graphite, like I was so used to seeing where the mark was gonna go, and the idea of having a paintbrush which is like thick or like, you mix in the paint, like you had to have two things to create work. Like you had to dip the paintbrush into it to get the paint on the brush instead of just having the ink or the marker or the color pencil like directly mark it. Like that was mind-blowing for me. But I realized like the colors that you could create with paints was just something that surpassed what graphite could ever do, or color pencils. How do you know what to paint if you're trying something different? I would say just pick a subject that you like. Like if I like landscapes, I'm gonna paint landscapes. If I like basketball, I'm gonna paint basketball scenes. If I like portraits, I'm gonna paint a portrait. It's just whatever you enjoy making. You inspire me in so many ways. Oh, thank you. Any things to watch out for, be aware of as an artist? I'd say being a creative in the beginning is one of the hardest things because you're creating things, you're spending all this time, all this effort, and you enjoy it. And then you make it and you put it out there and no one sees it. And you're like, wow, all this hard work and no one cares. But the thing is that in the beginning, that's kind of just how it is. It can feel a little bit demotivating when you spend maybe 20 hours in a piece and you post it or you share it and no one even notices or takes an interest. It's because you haven't shown that you're someone who's taking your art seriously. You're not someone that's putting your artwork out there on a daily basis. People aren't aware of you just yet. And so if you're able to, learn about your craft and get better as a creative while simultaneously learning how to showcase your work and get it out there, eventually those two things come together, and then your community is someone that are people that can get you to share your work more consistently and also promote your work more consistently as well. So it's kind of like a dance of those two things where it's no longer just about the art, it's also about how to get the art in front of others. So be okay with not making the sales in the beginning, be okay with not having the recognition, just trust in your vision and keep going. What other hobbies do you have? I've been super into fitness and health, especially since I started having health issues. That was one of the hardest times in my life when I was diagnosed with an autoimmune disease and I couldn't, walk for about 6 or 8 months. And I've been living with chronic pain for about 3 years or so. So being able to overcome that disability, become healthy again, I remember those days when I couldn't stand up. And so now that I am healthy, now that I am pain-free, I have to take advantage of my youth and my health. And so I'm not always gonna feel like this. I'm not always gonna look like this. So now that I can go for runs along the coast in the morning. I can go to the gym and lift weights. I can go for hikes. I can, play sports. So anything that's athletic, like those things really inspire me. Photography is a new thing too. It's a new game I'm playing and taking my camera on trips and taking photos of the area, the lighting. I see all these colors in the world that I hadn't seen before, and so I try to capture that with photography. That's a new interest. And I guess writing too. Like I've always been really not ashamed of my writing, but I never felt confident with it. And so talking about my art, talking about my creativity, connecting with others through writing, that's a new thing. And so I'm currently in the process of developing a book around, designing a lifestyle around your creativity. That's a new passion. What would be your dream project to work on? Doesn't have to be art related either. Ooh, my dream project. I guess one of my dream projects would be to collaborate with a clothing brand. Like I feel like art is one of those things that touches base on almost everything. Like art is influenced into architecture, it's influenced into furniture design, interior design, it influences technology, it influences, cars, things like that. But it also influences clothes, and I feel like fashion is a really cool way or cool medium to express yourself. It's like an extra skin that you get to wear. So if I were able to collaborate with some kind of clothing brand, especially one that I like, that would be dope. So like collaborating with like Adidas or a Nike would be cool. Or even like a shoe, like, I don't know. I feel like that would be a fun project. I've also wanted to do a large mural. So I think Powwow Hawaii is like one of the groups that I've been following for the last couple of years. And so being able to produce a work in a large scale and just be around other artists also doing that, I feel like that would be awesome. But I've never really done a mural in a large scale, so I'd be probably mortified to work that large. That'd be horrifying. But pretty cool at the same time. Your insights are helpful. Oh, thanks, Melissa. Art is a form of expression. How can you follow your dreams and not get stuck with jobs you don't like? So that's one of the things. It's like, I come from a family that used to have a lot of money, and because of the economic issues, we lost a lot of it. So where I used to be like, oh, tennis lessons all the time and traveling all the time, we'd like slowly and slowly get less and less of those things. The idea of college wasn't in my field of vision unless I went to like a community college or something that was more affordable. So I realized, like, also with having health issues and going to debt because of medical bills and things like that, I realized how important money was. And so I had to figure out a way to make enough money to live a lifestyle that I enjoy and I don't feel resentful about or feel like I'm limited. So I chose to go into serving, which in fine dining, you make more money from tips. I chose a location that was surrounded by a lot of nature. It's a restaurant that has all glass, so I get to watch the sunset every night. It's less volume, so you get to really interact with the guests and really get to talk to them about, where they're from, what they're doing, the food, the wine. It provides an experience that I like to be providing as a server. But the financial income that's made from working in fine dining has been able to provide for my trips abroad. I spent almost 2 months a year traveling as a server, which is kind of unheard of. I'm able to buy all my art products. I'm able to eat as much as I want. I can afford my gym membership. I can afford my bills. Money is super important. So I'd say the first thing is to try to stay as far away from debt and going negative, which means you have to find a job that pays you well enough, but you can't let the job be the only thing you do. If you show up to your work and you work your shift and you get off and you watch Netflix and you go to bed and you do that every day, you'll make the money that you make from work, but you're not developing as a creative. And so just because you have a full-time job doesn't mean you can't still work on your other creative projects. But that does mean that you have to say no to friends sometimes. It means you have to say no to going out and drinking. It means you have to say no to watching Netflix and binge watching, all within reason. You have to take responsibility and ownership of your life. And so you can't let your boss own you either. You can make your job a priority and you can be responsible and show up on time. But every hour that you have outside of work, that's yours and you can decide how to spend that. I choose to spend it on art because that's something that I believe in, something that I enjoy and love. So regardless if I'm tired, regardless if I'm not feeling well, regardless if I don't always want to do it, I still show up and do it because I want to transition into that. And I feel like, why not practice now doing both? Why not practice treating my life as being a full-time artist, even though I'm technically not because I have a job as well? And then that way, when I transition, I'm already a professional. I'm already, working, developing my craft on a daily basis. And that way, the transition won't be as rough. But I totally feel for you. Like, I get tired too sometimes and I get burnt out. So you have to take care of yourself. You have to take care of yourself. Self-care is really important. Have you ever thought about creating cartoons or comic strips? Yes. That's what got me into drawing, actually. I really loved comics. I loved Marvel characters. I liked manga. I liked anime. And so I started drawing all these characters. And by doing it, I learned about human anatomy. I could see how a storyline was developed. You could see how, conversations were exchanged, the different angles. I used to do a lot of comics when I was younger, but I haven't done it in a long time. So maybe I should get back into it. Hi from Scotland. I love your work. Oh, thank you. If you go anywhere in the world, where would you go? I'm actually going to Tokyo in March. I'm going there for 2 weeks. I'm so excited. I've never been to Asia. I'll be going to Tokyo for a week and I think Osaka and Kyoto. So that would be dope. Adidas, he coming for you guys. Dude, one day I'm like, that's definitely in the back of my mind. Your art is literally amazing, just as well as you. Keep it up. Thank you so much. Thanks, Beau. Super interesting stream. Dude, seriously, like I have been following you for such a long time and I'm fanboying hard right now. But yeah, I've seen your art develop. I see how consistent you are with your practice and how you take your art seriously, but you're also still a kid about it. Like you still play, you still experiment, you enjoy the process of making art and you're still developing other interests at the same time. Like I think I've I remember hearing that you're doing like animation or going to like some kind of school for that, and you're part of like the Beautiful Bizarre magazine. So like you dabble in all these different interests while simultaneously producing work almost at like a prolific level. And you're a young guy, like you created this for yourself, and like no one told you to do this. You're just doing this because you enjoy it. And so whenever I see someone who does that and does it not just, you know, full time, but does it well and does it while also sharing that process and taking the curtain away and being like, this is what I'm learning, this is what I'm developing. That's amazing. So if you're ever in California, feel free to come by, check out my studio, and you have a place to stay if you need it. Let's see. Did you always do art throughout school? Good question. So elementary, middle school, yes. Art was my thing. I was the art kid. People knew me as that. And then when I started high school, I was in a really bad place in my life, like mentally disconnected. Home life was kind of And so I kind of got into this depression, and depression for me was numbing. And luckily I didn't get into drugs. I didn't, get into too many bad things, but for me, I definitely was depressed. And so by numbing my emotions, I wasn't able to understand them or process them. I wasn't able to express them. And so as a result, I stopped drawing for 4 years in high school. And it wasn't until I got out of high school, took a gap year, traveled throughout Europe, spent a year in Spain, and was just like able to, be outside of my home environment, be outside of school environment, and just have a blank page to start over. Instead of becoming someone that I thought I wanted to be, I was just myself. And people really liked that. And I thought that was weird. I was like, whoa, people are super nice to me. People want to be my friend. I'm traveling all around the world. Everyone's so nice. I'm taking, photos. I'm writing my journals. I'm painting. I'm drawing. And it was able to reignite my passion for art. And luckily, it's something that never really went away. Like it comes in waves of being super inspired and producing a lot. Or just kind of taking my time off and doing other things that are non-art related to then tell through my art. But yeah, in high school, I didn't really draw much. So just because you're in a break or you're not drawing right now doesn't mean that it's always going to be like that. It's healthy to step away and take a step back and do other things. And then when you're ready and you want to pursue it again, it's always there for you. Thank you for the answer. No problem. How long does it take you to produce a piece? It depends. Small pieces, maybe 15, 20 hours. Large pieces, 50, 60 hours. Depends on how crazy I get with the details. What anime or manga did you watch or read? I was a Naruto fan. But I was more into Marvel characters. I was an X-Men fiend. It's embarrassing, scary embarrassing how many X-Men characters I know. How have you grown your familiarity with your materials and style? Yeah, so I created a YouTube video set talking about collections. I feel like a lot of times artists are very scatterbrained, like we jump left and right, we see something shiny, we go towards it. But if you're able to take a step back, pick something and kind of work within a certain limitation, you're able to develop, a storyline, you're able to develop characters, you're able to develop a style. And so for me, I started the series of portraits with landscapes and I stuck to it. So even sometimes when I wanted to wander and do something else, I felt like I hadn't really fully explored that style and that story. And so I didn't want to go on to the next thing until I really got to understand that collection. So with the Off the Grid collection of portrait landscapes, I think I painted 20, 25 paintings of that. Before that, I was doing a lot of ink and tattoo design pieces. And I think I created about 10 or 15 ink designs because I was doing a tattoo apprenticeship on the side. I did this collection for a restaurant. They commissioned 6 pieces. And for that collection, I wanted something that was unified but still different. And so I did the series of women holding agave plants. And each of the women is holding a different type of agave. And the woman personified the characteristics of each of those plants. So there was a story behind it. There is a very similar style. It's almost black and white with dashes of color, and then the plants were in color. The goal was to really, tell a story, tell it authentically, do something that was personal to the restaurant because it's a mezcal bar and features Oaxacan cuisine, and something that would embellish the restaurant. So it's easy to try all these different things, but when you do that and then you find one that feels good, that feels right, lean into that and then explore it within a certain limitation. Have you any special plans for Christmas? I'm gonna be working like a dog. I think on Christmas Eve, I work a 12-hour shift and I work six days in a row. So I'm working Christmas. I just had 2 weeks off, so it's okay if they put me to work, but it's like, use me, just don't abuse me. Your art has inspired me so much and to really get into it and to experiment and go to school for it. Love your work. Yeah, it's amazing because I grew up really shy, really introspective, and working in the restaurant has got me out of my shell and really speaking to others, and so has travel. Those two things definitely helped me become more social and more extroverted, even though I'm very much introspective and more introverted. But being able to communicate and talk and speak up has been I'd say one of the most positive things that's happened in recent years. It's given me an opportunity to connect with others on a deeper level that previously wasn't possible just because of my nature. So, being an artist doesn't mean you have to be a recluse, doesn't mean you have to be awkward or shy all the time. It's okay sometimes. But yeah, being able to have a conversation about things that are actually on your mind and being able to say what's on your mind and not having, fear-based feelings or anxieties prevent you from having an honest connection. I think making the art in your studio and being alone and producing that work in your own space is great, but if you're able to then take it out and put it out in the real world and really connect with others, that's a whole other aspect that's also really fun. So good luck with art school. Do you speak Spanish? Sí, hablo español. Es mi tercera lengua. Estoy viviendo en Cádiz 2 años y casi vuelvo cada año. Este año estuve en agosto 2 semanas. Y me encanta España. Hey, do you respond to DMs? I've taken art exams and we have to do research, artist research. Would I be able to ask you a few questions as I'm really inspired by your work? Yeah, for sure. If you ask me through my email, that's it's preferable just because with DMs, I get notifications all the time. And if I get too many DMs, it's overwhelming for me. I like to be accessible, but I don't like to be that accessible. So if you send me an email, I can answer to you on my own time and I don't feel the pressure of having to answer right away. So just email me and I'll get back to you. I love how you can be able to open up to us and share all of this good advice that you have. Yeah, so going back to that question earlier, it's like, these are things that I'm still learning about. These are things that I am, each day something comes up and I'm like, I never thought of that before. And like, these are things that I wish I knew when I was just starting out. These are things that, would have been very helpful and very insightful when I had nowhere to turn or didn't know who to speak to or didn't know who to talk to about these things. No one ever really created anything by themselves. Like, it's a collaboration. There's a lot of great tools out there. There's a lot of other artists that are producing amazing work that's super inspirational that could help you with your art as well. There's other people doing tutorials, talking about the process of making art, people like Kelogsloops. Like, there's a lot of amazing information that is right at your fingertips if you pay attention and if you make the effort to look for it. I'm one of those options. So if you do have any questions, that's why I love Instagram Live. Like, you can ask me anything right away and I can give you an answer. Like, you don't have to wait weeks or months. You don't have to wait to a class to get that information. You can find out right away. I really love your work, Beau. I like the cute panda. That's amazing. How do you get your work sold through galleries? Keep an eye out for call for artists, and what's the percentage that galleries usually keep for themselves from the selling price? Yeah, so I remember when I created the first collection, I went on the hunt for a gallery representation. I applied to well over 70 galleries and I got 69 denials, like rejections. The one that accepted me was the gallery in Australia. And so I've been in contact with them for about 2.5 years now, and they still sell my work today. So just be prepared for the no's, but just because you get a no today doesn't mean it's a permanent one. If you keep going at it, if you keep getting better, eventually you get so good that they can't ignore you. And if you develop a necessity or a brand or some kind of consistency in producing work and selling work, they get to the point where you can actually showcase in basically almost any gallery that you want. I'm not there yet, but I'm working at it to get there one day. So galleries take about 40% to 50%. I've even heard 60%, which seems kind of crazy to me. But if they're selling it in crazy prices, maybe it's worth it. But yeah, like the gallery in Australia takes 40% commission, which is pretty amazing. Most galleries take 50%. So the gallery here in Big Sur that I go through, they take 50%, but it is, it's a resort that has a gallery space, and the resort is very expensive. So the guests that go there are highballers, they have a lot of money. And so I'm able to sell my work at a very high price, but the gallery takes 50%, so I take the other 50%. But it doesn't even hurt my feelings because I'm getting the amount of money from what I feel like I put into the work. The exchange feels equivalent. So if maybe they take half of the commission, but they're the reason why I was able to make a commission in the first place. They were able to put my work in front of people that were interested, liked my work, and wanted to buy it. And because of it, I can make money from my art. So it's really up to you. But once you're in contact with the gallery, it's a relationship. So it's something that you have to cultivate. It's something you have to develop. It's something that you have to, talk to, really get on the same page, figure out how to have shows, figure out how to rotate your work. And if you're in a gallery that really cares for you, they will sell your work and they will sell it and sell it and sell it. So I feel pretty great about the 2 galleries that I'm working with, but I'm definitely looking for more representation, especially in Europe. Looking at London. That's currently where I'm at right now. And also maybe on East Coast in New York. Te invito a Madrid. Have you ever thought about having your own show in the future? Yes, maybe, I don't know. I love talking about art. I love talking to other artists. I love hearing stories from people that are really inspirational and just doing things to the best of their ability and doing it well. There's a lot of podcasts that I listen to or people that have like YouTube shows, people that are interviewing really amazing people around the world. And so I feel like that group of people isn't as big as I once thought it was. Like a lot of people that I see on these screens, I'm like, wow, like they're so amazing. Like I wish I could talk to them. I wish I could, reach out and be a part of that lifestyle. And maybe I'm not quite on that level yet, but I'm moving towards it. So I feel like once you break into that network, all the people that are, at the top of their game in their departments, they're all friends. And I was like, maybe if I can get into that department, I can be friends with them too. And then that's when, everyone's collaborating, everyone's, helping to share their content, getting people into, supporting their careers and doing it where it's not taking advantage. It's just like embellishing or complementing their lifestyle. So if I could have a show in the future, I would for sure do it. You're incredible. I love your work. Thank you so much. High school sucks. How did your high school life affect your art now? Like I said before, it made me take a break from art, but because of that, I was able to be a lot more social, spend a lot more time with friends. But now it's like I really love the friendships that I have now because I'm much more selective. I'm very careful with who I spend my time with, whether the people that support me, emotionally, people that care for me and the real me, not just the idea of me. There's only so many hours in the day, so I'm not gonna just give it to people that just want to go out and party all the time. Sometimes that's good too, and I have friends that are like that as well. But now it's like I'm much more careful, and I'm with friends that I feel like it's okay to not have to talk all the time. It's okay to not see each other every day or every week. But when we do catch up, it's like great connection, great conversation. I always feel energized. I never feel depleted. So now I'm definitely more friends with people that are driven, people that are working really hard at their craft. A lot of my friends are, photographers, they're business owners, they're people that, really care about what they do. And so people that pay attention, people that listen, those are the friends that I care about. And the ones that I still have from high school are the ones that are just like the way that I spoke to you about, like people that are just really good people. But in high school, it's hard because you're in a bubble and you're limited. But once you're out, then you can choose. So, yeah. As an artist, do you ever get discouraged in your work? I'll make a minor mistake and end up feeling like I'm a horrible artist. Welcome to the club. There's good days and bad days. There's days where you just feel disgusting. You're like, I suck. I should never paint again. And then you just get over it. So just get over it. Be kind to yourself. Like, I feel like a lot of times we're really nice to other people. Like, we're like, oh, it's okay, you made a mistake. Like, don't worry about it. Like, you still have all these other qualities. Like, you still have other opportunities. But then when we look at ourselves, we're like super ruthless, dictators, super negative, super hard on ourselves. And I've been trying to be a lot more kinder to myself, which is kind of a new thing. And I realized that I feel better about it. Like, I feel like there's less pressure, there's less weight, there's less burden, less responsibility. You get to be a kid. And I feel like when you come from a place of enjoyment, of playfulness, of just like trying something because you want to rather than feeling like you have to, that's when a lot of great things happen. How do you prevent yourself from overworking the canvas with your brush and paint? It's a question that I still have to this day. It just depends on what kind of style you want to achieve. Do you want to have the kind of loose brushwork? Do you want to see lines in your canvas? Do you want to see different types of textures? Or do you want to just soften everything up with a fan brush? It's up to you. Do you plan on making YouTube videos soon? By the way, I'm definitely going to get some IKEA furniture. Every studio looks bomb. Seriously, yeah, I spent a lot of money, but I did a full renovation of the studio. It used to be horrible, like disgusting. Purple, green, weird blue table, weird furniture everywhere, just awful stuff. And then I put in new lights, repainted the walls white. I built a coffee table that was, it's kind of edgy. New curtains. I put in books that inspired me. I put in clothes that I wear on a regular basis. I made it functional for an artist. I have my desk. I bought a new laptop or a new computer. I bought the IKEA furniture that rolls around so I can kind of rotate the studio if I need to. I made it a place that I really want to be in. So anything that I can do to make my life easier, anything I could do to get myself in front of the canvas and painting rather than on the couch watching Netflix, I was like, I'm going to do it. So I dropped dropped a pretty penny. I bought a couch, bought this furniture, bought the lights, bought the desk, bought a bunch of supplies for art, spent about $1,500 maybe, which may seem like a lot, but like this is an investment in myself. It's an expense, but there's a difference between materialism, like, oh, I like this jacket, I'm gonna wear it because I like it, versus I'm gonna buy this table because I can produce work on this table. Or I'm gonna buy this light because it'll make it so that I can see the colors that I'm using, so when I'm mixing paints, I get the color that I want. There's a difference between an investment in yourself and just an expense that feels good in the moment. So, money for me, the way that I treat money changed very dramatically. And so whenever I do an investment, it doesn't hurt my feelings. It's not like a gut punch. It's like, yes, like I'm building something, I'm making something that I enjoy. It just requires money. So invest in yourself. Hi from Dublin. Hello. How's it going? Thank you, Beau. I also want to know, how do you think of having a strong online presence helps galleries be more willing to represent an artist? I think it definitely does. It's not the only approach. Literally, the work should be the first and foremost, the most important quality. it's an extension of you. It's an expression. It's a piece of content that can be purchased. That's what the gallery's looking for. But having the online presence, having a presence at all, whether it's organic, you know, through your city, whether it's connections that you have with people within the industry, those things are all important, and there's no one size fits all. There's no, this is the only way to do it to make it in this world as an artist. I think doing anything that could help you and make it a little bit more easier or help you get your work in those gallery spaces. If people keep going back to you online, why wouldn't they want to go back to you in person? That's kind of my mentality. Also, there's different types of audiences. Like, do you have a young audience? Who are you catering your audience to? Is the audience that you want to cater to in the gallery the same as the audience that you're catering to online? There's a lot of questions that you have to ask yourself, and you can choose how to go about it. I chose to go more online presence because in my town, it's kind of old school, very traditional, and my style is much more modern, abstract, surreal. And I feel like it's a great place to just talk to others about art on a daily basis, whereas in real world, I can't do this all the time. Like, I'm at work, I'm at the gym, I'm here, I'm painting. But with the internet, I can post something and people can read it today, tomorrow, the day after that. This Instagram live video is coming to an end. Thank you so much for following. Thank you so much for listening. I really love these Instagram lives because people ask really thoughtful questions, and I get to understand a part of myself that I didn't know before, or I'm able to put in thoughts and emotions into words. And if it can provide some kind of help or insight, then I feel like I'm doing something right. And yeah, thanks for helping me out. Thanks for supporting me. Thanks for, you know, following the journey. There's a lot of work ahead, but I'm really excited to create more work, share more content, and just be an artist. So thanks again. Have a beautiful day. Take care. Love you guys. And don't forget to subscribe. If you'd like to see more of my work, you can find me at Instagram at BeauBFrank or my website, Beau.